following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, and today we have Andrew Hemingway, who is running for governor. Running for governor. Now, that's an important job.
Yes.
How did you decide you wanted to do something like that?
Well, it was not an easy decision, I'll tell you that. This was a process. This is, not something that we just sort of jumped into lightly or for, just for the fun of doing something, It was a long process, and for the last 5 years or so, I've been fairly active in the New Hampshire political scene, working, at various stages. I ran Newt Gingrich's presidential campaign, and ran a large statewide Republican organization, and have been doing a lot of things in the state. Just before Thanksgiving, I had a couple people who approached me and said, would you consider running for governor? I think that it'd be great to have a young governor, someone who sort of is, understands some of the challenges that young families are having in the state, and, a business guy. And so, all those things combined. And so my wife and I and my family, we started to, kind of see if we thought this was a good time for us personally, if, my business could we could make this work business-wise, and then sort of take a small calculation. I think probably the least calculation we took, but still a calculation, is politically. Does it make sense? And all of those things combined, we said that now is the right time. And I think that New Hampshire is at a very critical point in its history. I think that no matter where you go around the state, people all agree that New Hampshire definitely is sort of changing. There's definitely something that's occurring, and not all of the change is bad change, for sure, but there's definitely something happening, and I think it's important that we have a say in the formation of what New Hampshire is going to look like for the future, and I believe that we're making decisions right now in Concord and coming up in the next several years that are going to really shape the future and the course of our state, and I want to have a say in that.
You think because you're young that this would be an extra attraction to some of the young voters who are really looking for something different?
Yeah, I think that we definitely, even there was a WMUR poll which was done a couple days before I even got in the race, which showed that head-to-head with Governor Hassan, I was only 4 points behind in that youth demographic, the 18 to 35-year-old demographic. I was still very close. So yes, I think that there's definitely an advantage. I think that it could possibly, on the reverse side, there's a lot of older folks who go, oh, I'm not sure if
he's too young.
Exactly. So all in all, it balances itself out, and essentially we're going to have hopefully a campaign that's based upon ideas. I do think that there is some attraction, some novelty, I guess, of having a 31-year-old running for governor. A lot of people look at that and say, wow, he's young. What exactly is he going to bring to the table? And so, I'm excited to be able to meet people and be able to talk about the ideas that I have, and the vision ultimately that we have for our state.
So you've started and sold some companies, and
Yes.
your business experience covers a lot of different types of jobs, or
Yeah, I mean, in college, I was running a window washing business, and going to build that up, and then I got into insurance for 3 years,
Really?
and was able to work through that. That was a great experience. I worked in agricultural insurance, and
which is different.
it is. It's
It's something appropriate for the state, I imagine.
absolutely. There's a lot of gentleman farms and family farms all over the state, and some production farms, but not a huge number. But it was such a great experience to sit down with farmers, especially the family farmers, and talk to them about how hard it is for them
Sure.
to survive in this economy and in this state, and things that perhaps the state is doing that are just these old antiquated laws that no one's really even addressed, but it's still hurting our businesses today. And so it was a great experience. I traveled all over the state. We were was the number 2 agent in the country my first year in the company, and so it was successful. And then I started a technology company for youth soccer coaches, and we made videos for youth soccer coaches and put them online. And it was the first company in the world to create an iPhone application with youth soccer video coaching, and so able to do some stuff like that. And sold that company, and then have built another company, and I'm working on my 3rd tech startup right now. So
I see. What is that?
it's called Grassloot, and we do online donation processing for nonprofits.
Really?
And
Some to help you in your financing.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna leverage all the experience and technology from all this stuff. Definitely, we have a good opportunity there.
So that'll help you get your financing. How do you get your name recognition done?
Name recognition is a challenge. It's definitely going to be a challenge. But again, we're going to work hard. So I think the first piece is just trying to meet as many people as we can. And to that end, we launched the campaign, started right away with 30 and 30, which is 30 events in 30 days. And we were out meeting as many people as we possibly can. And I'm committed to that. And we're committed to number one, the old-fashioned knocking on doors, walking into businesses, holding signs and giving out donuts at the dump. I mean, whatever it is, we as a campaign and I as a candidate for governor am committed to that, because ultimately I believe that the most important thing, the most important experience that I can gain is not just running the best campaign or having the most compelling message or having the right answer at the right time. I think the most effective and most important thing that I gained from this experience as a campaign is being able to meet all of the different people in New Hampshire and being able to spend some time with them and listen to them and hear them. I think that is the experience ultimately that a governor needs to take into the corner office, is being able to say, you know what, I remember Carl and Nashua, and we talked about healthcare. I remember that. And already from my experience, I know that we've talked to lots of people, and there's lots and lots and lots of different issues. But not a single issue reaches the level of importance to people as simply just being heard. People want to be heard. They want to know that their representatives are listening to them and are willing to listen to them. And so
Definitely.
I want to do that as a candidate from day one. And I want to learn from the people.
And you're able to build up the organization, and we have a lot of towns around New Hampshire that really operate somewhat independently, and they do want that way of getting to the person that they want to,
Yes.
talk to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you got that going already.
We do.
That's
We
great.
do. We've got
That's
a lot
great.
of volunteers already. We've got a full-time field director who is, organizing and putting events into place. And
Well, if
house
any of our
parties.
listeners want to get in touch with you to help out, how do they do that?
the best way to do that is right on my website. It's www.andrewhemingway.com.
They'll see that on the film here. But I
Perfect.
just
Yeah,
wanted
right on
to
the
make
screen,
sure
so-
that we brought that up so that in case they like what they hear.
Absolutely. They can volunteer. They can
That
say,
they
hey, we
can
want a
help you
yard
out.
sign or a bumper
Yeah,
sticker or
yeah.
host
Or-
a house party or anything
That's right.
like that.
Yeah, something like that, and have you
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And what do you think the big issues are? You brought up healthcare and I
Sure.
imagine jobs and stuff.
There are three primary things that we're focusing on. Those are, number one, education. the future of our state rests on the shoulders of our children. And I can't underemphasize how important the education of our children are in this state. It's something that as a state we've been very committed to throughout its history. I think that it's something that's very important for me individually. My daughter is 6 now. She's just entering the 1st grade, and she attends a public school there in Bristol, and we've been very, very, very happy with that process. But I think that when you look at where we are on the educational spectrum, I'm not satisfied with being in the mid-20s among the states. I'm not satisfied with where we are. And I'm also not convinced that we're doing the best possible job for our children. I think we have some amazing teachers. I think that one of the problems is through the adoption of Common Core and through the adoption of Smarter Balance, we're putting handcuffs, essentially, on our teachers. We're limiting their creativity, their entrepreneurship, their ability to be master teachers. We're taking that ability away from them. And I think that our students are much better served when our teachers are free to work at the best of their ability. And so, to that end, I would say, we need to cast off Common Core. I think we need to reject any of these federal mandates. We've now had enough experience with no student left behind, reach for the top, or race to the top, all these different programs, and they've all been failures.
Every 8 to 10 years, we change.
Every single year, they come up with some new catchy program. They dangle some money in front of a state, and everybody gets all excited, and they don't work. I think there are some really fundamental, basic things that we can introduce in education. Some of those things include helping our, just some fundamentals of helping our public schools grow and nourish, helping start more charter schools, encouraging the creation of additional charter schools, embracing school choice. Competition is a good thing.
That's right.
Competition helps all of us. And the biggest winner from that is actually going to be the public schools, because they're going to be challenged, and we're going to have to, have a little competition. That's how we're going to get better.
Have you visited some of those charter schools?
I have. I have been to a number of the charter schools around the state.
Be at the one in Nashua here.
I haven't gone to the one, the math and science. I think that's what you're talking about.
I'm very impressed. I've been there twice as a legislator. In fact, I gave some technical books to them and stuff like that, because those kids are really enjoying their experience.
Right.
I never saw it. It's almost like I don't want to throw a wrong impression, like it's a party, because they enjoy it so much.
Right. Right.
And they learn a lot quicker, and they got some advanced training. I'm surprised that they're getting college level training.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially with technology now being introduced into education. I mean, the possibilities are just limitless, and I think that we need to have an attitude as a state that we welcome that. We want those experiences. We want our children to be able to use the very best that's out there, and I think that we can do that. Education is very important. Healthcare is obviously an issue which needs to be addressed, and I think there are things that we can do at the state level. Number one, we could start by saying no to Medicaid expansion. I mean, this is a big mistake. It's a
well, even that supposed agreement between the Republicans and Democrats is questionable.
It really is.
I mean, I don't see you giving up your biggest negotiating point of this waiver that you have to do it the way you want to do it here in New Hampshire before you you get the approval for that waiver.
That's right. It doesn't make any sense on that level. There's a number of questions. What is the real cost of the program? No one knows. Arkansas is going through some very serious troubles right now. They recently adopted this method, and now they're completely underwater on their program, and there's no end in sight. No one knows exactly how much it's going to be. I just think that it's the wrong way to do it.
Well, Maine they gave it up a couple years ago because it didn't work for them.
Right. There's a lot of things.
And it never accomplished their goals either.
No, it did not. So. We've got to introduce, again, more competition into our healthcare system.
That's right.
And we only have one health insurance company in the state of New Hampshire that's admissible.
Which is terrible,
And the first thing that they did was they said the only way that we can stay in this market is if we shrink access of hospitals. And so they moved 12 hospitals out of the network. Now, I mean, you and I both know this was sold to the American people and the people of New Hampshire on two basic promises: lower cost for health insurance and greater access. We now have higher costs
And lower.
and lower access. You know, I don't understand this. Governor Hassan went around the state of New Hampshire, and all the Democrats did, talking about how having health insurance was a basic human right. I don't know if you remember that, but they were talking about this idea of a basic human right. And it struck me at the time because I was thinking, I know what basic human rights are. And having health insurance, it's questionable to me whether that ratings in there. But right now, today, there are more uninsured people in New Hampshire than when Governor Hassan took office. More,
Really?
thousands more. So where are the groups now? Where is Governor Hassan now talking about the basic human right of people needing health insurance? What happened?
Yeah.
Well, it's obvious. This was a campaign. This is just a, campaign
A slogan.
speech. Exactly. We can say anything we want to when we're campaigning because no one's ever going to hold us accountable.
Right.
During her State of the State, just this last month, she didn't mention the word uninsured one time.
Yeah.
There are thousands more families uninsured today.
They're
than
avoiding
there
it
were.
altogether.
They
I
have
guess,
to.
Yeah.
And now we see that she won't even appear with President Obama when he comes to the state. She has a scheduling conflict.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I just think that healthcare is a very serious problem. I don't mean to be, diminishing that issue by being political here for a second, but it's a very important issue that is affecting the lives of every person in the state of New Hampshire. And it's one that we can fix. We can start by saying, let's let people bond together and join their own groups, whether it's a small business group, whether it's individuals, whatever it is. Let's start letting people join together. Also, Carl, we can buy a sofa on the internet from Russia in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You can go online and you can purchase anything you want to from anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world in just a matter of minutes. What's wrong with you going online and searching and finding a company in Texas that offers a health insurance plan that allows you to cover the coverages that you want, that you're satisfied with at a price that you want? Why not allow companies to compete? Why not allow them to be able to come here? There are regulations in the state of New Hampshire right now which make it nearly impossible for a health insurance company to consider doing business. We need to change those. That needs to start right away. And I think that's something that as a governor, would be a high priority, something that we could fix.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My son had the same, had an experience where he had to get a hospital to do an MRI.
Yep.
And it differed by more than a factor of 3
Yes.
from the high to the lowest.
Yes.
And, if you have a high deductible policy, that's what you want to be able to do.
Yes.
Pick out the one that's going to be a lower price.
Right, right. So there's those things. And then, of course, jobs and the economy is my third point. And, that's obviously something that we need to take a very serious look at. The New Hampshire economy is stuck. We're the 5th worst in job creation in the country. I mean, we're not adding jobs to our economy. We have a shrinking workforce, a shrinking and aging workforce as we get older and older here. It's a very serious problem, and the trends make it even more significant and something that needs to be addressed rapidly.
Have you talked to Jeff Rose, the state commissioner on DRED?
Of DRED, I have not spoken to Jeff, no.
Okay, you ought to
I
meet
do
with
know him, though. We've spoken in the
yeah,
past, but not specifically since we started.
I've had him on the show once, and I think he, working for BAE at one time, he has a lot of ideas. Hopefully he can implement them.
Right.
Because he is trying to do something with that. And
Right.
my involvement when I was in the legislature with that operation, they were just underfunded and just overregulated, I guess you might say.
Yes, it's a very low priority, that's for sure. And I guess that idea of priorities is something that I've noticed across the board. The governor ultimately in New Hampshire is very limited in the amount of power that they have. I mean, they don't get to carte blanche make this law or that law. They don't have a lot of executive power whatsoever. The executive council really controls a lot of that. So what does the governor in New Hampshire do? I mean, the governor, I think, sets out, hopefully, priorities. And then he champions those priorities in a way that tries to, as a leader would, get people on board to follow those things and work for different things. And for a long time, the business community and businesses in New Hampshire in general have been a very low priority in New Hampshire, especially over the last 10 years of Democrat governors. The only thing a governor looks to the business community for, seemingly, over the last several years is revenue. How can we get more revenue out of these guys? And that's cost us. We see that. We see businesses moving out of New Hampshire. And we see no job creation. It's a cost that we've all paid. And so I think resetting those priorities, saying economic development is a priority for us. One of the things I've talked about is that I'm going to move the Economic Development Office actually into the Capitol building. I think it should be really close to the governor.
Sure.
I think it should be the governor's #1 job. We should be traveling all over the country, getting into as many boardrooms as possible, saying, move to New Hampshire, move to New Hampshire. This is a great place to do business. That should be a job, being the cheerleader and the leader
Definitely.
for that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is infrastructure. Infrastructure has taken a back seat for years and years and years and years. So long that when I talk to people, they go, yeah, that's never going to change. That's never going to change. Well, look, pretty soon, we're not going to have bridges to drive on. So at some point,
I definitely need that.
we need to take a very serious look at this. At some point, someone needs to say, hey, we have condemned bridges that we're driving on all the time. I mean, the Federal Highway Safety Program is, looking at all these bridges and looking at infrastructure in our state. But I also think that there's a perspective of taking a broader look and saying infrastructure is more than just roads and bridges. It includes energy. And what are we doing in energy? And what is Governor Hassan's plan to address the closing of Yankee and the closing of some of the coal plants which are generating energy onto our grid? Have we heard anything? Is there any sort of leadership? There's nothing. So this is a very significant issue which is going to affect all of us, is this energy issue. And then I think that pushing and being a tech guy myself, I understand the importance, but having access to the backbone of the internet, to having access to high speed, they call it gigabit service now, all through the state of New Hampshire, letting every single business have access to this. And doing it in a way that is not traditional government, where we can hardly get out of our way. We set up task force and study groups and this committee and that committee. And look, there's a way to get government moving. And it's not by being a bully. It's not by, with a whip or anything like that. It's by laying out a very clear vision and saying, look, we know that people of New Hampshire are going to benefit from this. They want this. We want this. Let's go get it done. Let's get something done. And I think that getting high-speed internet throughout the state would be a huge economic boost for the economy. I think we would start to see businesses really a lot more interested in moving here and being a part of that. I think we could move some of the businesses which sit just over the border in Massachusetts to get them to come across the border, enjoy the
income tax dollars.
Exactly, the better tax environment. So there's lots that can be done.
And I'm surprised that there has been more done. But as you say, she doesn't seem to have that. The current governor doesn't seem to have the initiative that should be done.
I think that there's a number of reasons for that. But really, I mean, when you objectively look at this, I don't know of one thing that she's done.
Well, all they can talk about is taxes and increasing the money. They don't realize that if you increase the jobs and everything, you get an increase in funding.
Exactly.
You don't have to tax more. You have to open the...
Well, I mean, it's a very basic economic principle that you can only tax so much before you start losing revenue. I mean, it's been proven over and over and over again that stone can only bleed so much, and so it's proven that way. And what we need to start to do to increase revenue to state government is to start to reduce the taxes, start to reduce the regulation. We do that, we'll encourage businesses and entrepreneurs to move to the state, to grow within the state, to add more employees. That increases revenue. Because people come here, they buy homes, they shop in our stores, they eat at our restaurants, all of those things. And that's how we generate revenue in the state of New Hampshire, not the way that's been gone now. Really, this approach is a very lazy approach. It's an approach that says, we don't really want to figure out another way of how to do this. We don't really want to face the hard challenges which face our state. Let's just raise taxes because they can't say no. We just keep raising the taxes. It's a very, very lazy approach in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's true. But there are people in the government that I've seen in my interaction up there, 4 years I was up there, that are very innovative.
Yes.
They're being held back by people who, I guess you have to use the words politically appointed, rather, at the head of the different agencies.
Yes.
And the agencies themselves might have some programs, but they don't really evaluate the success of those programs. I've seen we have audits up there on the programs that report back to the committees, and then the committees ignore the audit reports. And these are just some basic things. They're not going to really change a lot, but they're going to change a little bit. And once you start running smoother and smoother, you can get a lot more done.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's what I think if you get elected, you ought to look at seeing now.
Absolutely.
But that's another thing, how I guess the governor's a little bit, hands are tied, in that they have to appoint some of these guys for
Yes.
5 years.
Yes. And so they, roll over different
Yeah.
terms and things
Yeah.
like that, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's a hallmark of sort of New Hampshire style of government, which is, at the end of the day, as much as we love to get into the partisan, this and that, at the end of the day, it really is a nonpartisan type of an environment
Yes.
that we're in. Because, your previous governor, can appoint someone that lasts all the way through your, perhaps through your term and different things. And you have to be able to work, with everybody ultimately that comes there, is appointed there. Because whether you like it or not, some people are part of your administration. And
Well,
so
you must
you've
learn
gotta be
that
able to
with
do
all
that.
the different companies you've had, too. You've
Yeah.
got a number of different
Yeah.
types of people working for you.
Yes, and where I really started to learn that was very important was I was elected to the budget committee for my town,
Ah,
and
that ought to be interesting.
it was great. It was a 3-year term. It's nonpartisan. And the first year I sat and I listened and listened and listened and kind of got my bearings. And the second year I was elected as the chairman. And that year I went back and I started to analyze sort of the town budget and where we were. And I actually rewrote the budget. I took over 10 years and extrapolated all of this and put together a comprehensive budget, and I presented that to the budget committee, and they ultimately ended up adopting that budget. And we reduced spending by over 20%
Wow.
that first year. We didn't cut any services. But what we did was very carefully looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. We looked for opportunities for more efficiencies, simple things like office supplies, just simple things that add up and add up and
Right.
add up and add
Definitely.
up, and pretty soon you have $1 million that you say, where are we spending
Where'd
this
it
$1
go?
million?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so what I did was I just really started at zero, and I started building a budget from zero to say, where do we really need to be? And what that did was shift priorities. It realigned people. And ultimately, the town passed that budget, was very happy with it, and served a second year. But I learned through that experience that this isn't just, my idea. It's not just Republican idea. This is about the people, ultimately. It's about all of us. And being willing to sort of drop that eyesight and, take off those glasses or whatever for a little bit, and recognize that the decisions we're making have very real impacts on people's lives. And being willing to sit and to listen to someone else and, to negotiate and to work through the process is ultimately the successful, piece of that whole process. And so I did that. And I think the town of Bristol was better off for it, obviously. They were happy. They approved the
20%,
budget.
yeah, I imagine.
And so, it was a good experience.
But Andrew, we've gone through a lot, and we've
Yes,
run
sir.
out of time. So thank you very much. We'll have you back again
Please.
once the formal electioneering campaign
That'd be-
starts
be great.
after June, and we
Yes.
can talk about some of your plans then in more detail.
That'd be great.
Okay?
Thank you,
you for coming.
Of course.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.